get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Welcome to Mostly Horror Movie Night.
Mostly.
It sounds like Tom Hardy in
So you believe that the horror is your life? And the horror betrays you.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Molded by it.
When did you someone gave you the green light to start doing impressions on the show, and I don't know who it was, but
listen.
It wasn't me. Steve.
We're too deep.
I'm Steve. How's it going?
I'm Sean.
Nice to meet you. Well, that was fun. It's been a long day. I think the heat is getting to my brain a little, and it hasn't even been that hot.
Yeah.
That many days.
You had a hot day. I had a rainy day, and it was nice, and I'm still tired. So I feel you. I feel for you.
I did get to sleep in, which was cool. But we have a very cool interview and very fun game this week, which is, we say that every week, but we got great guests. We are joined today by K. K is the festival director of the Salem Horror Fest in Salem, Mass.
Motherfucking Salem.
Motherfucking
Salem, cuz.
And great conversation. Kay is a wealth of knowledge. Drops a lot of really interesting tidbits about Salem itself. Kay knows a lot about film in general, which is great to kind of talk about, just because we're both film lovers, and I try to I know personally I try to expose myself to a lot of different things in film, which they talk about as well, trying to do. So just a good conversation from all aspects in terms of film and horror. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I loved the conversation. I think it was great. I'm also really excited because, granted, we really, and that's one of the things about our show, is that we are trying to pull guests. We're not just trying to interview actors or directors. Like
we've only had one actress.
Yeah, I was about to say. And obviously I would like more actors. But just to, because it's like you said, we've only had one, but I like that we're not just focusing on the artist necessarily. We're focusing on people that are bringing the community together. And I think that that's a really cool thing. And I want to explore that more. And what better way to start than with fucking Salem, Salem Horror Fest. Like, that's sick.
100%. And then we also have a great game, kind of like a top 5, like what we usually do. But this week it's a build a coven, which essentially we all picked a head witch and then 4 people that aren't witches but would be in the coven with them. So super fun game at the end there. Before we get into the interview, Sean, I know you don't like being sad. I'm going to make you a little sad. All right.
Oh, you bitch. All right.
So last week you were talking about Practical Magic, how you bought the VHS, because I told you about Frightmare HQ. Like I remember sending you that link. I was like, yo, look at this place where you can buy horror VHSs for pennies on the dollar. They're closed.
Are you serious?
Dude,
why?
I looked it up. So it was a duo. It was 2 guys that ran this, and they also ran a podcast, like a horror podcast, just like yours truly. And they posted, they did interviews, honestly, which is really cool because that's what we do as well. And they did some live streams and horror, with horror icons and that sort of stuff, which is really cool. But I looked, and Charles, their names were Lloyd and Charles, and basically May 11th, which is like, you probably bought Practical Magic like right before they closed.
Yeah, well, no, that's the thing. I didn't even Practical Magic I just got on Amazon, but I did a bulk order from them recently, like right before I literally placed them at the same day. I just got them from 2 different things.
Yeah, but they basically, just said that, the shutdown was pretty abrupt. They have a lot of outside work that they do, and the things that they're doing, like their podcast can't be up to the level that they want it to be, which I understand. They're working 9 to 5s. And then they also said that trying to run the VHS aspect of it is just another thing that's tough. I think that Lloyd still runs. He runs a shop called Frightmare Collectibles, which is in Texas. And it's like horror collectibles, and I think it's an actual storefront. But yeah, so shout out to Frightmare HQ. Rest in peace. You know,
that legitimately hurts me. I am truly upset about that.
It's a bummer because we literally just talked about it in the last episode, and I went on to go like snag. You know me, I like having physical copies of stuff, and I was like, I really want to find something cool, and no, I can't. Dude,
I've ordered from them so many times. What do we got to do? Let's help them out, guys.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, because like we were saying, their prices are so good that I was wondering, where are they finding these? Like there must be a lot of work going into finding them for really cheap to be able to sell them for as cheap as they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can't. I got the last time I ordered from them, I got The Exorcist, Witches, Beetlejuice, and something else for no joke, like $24 with shipping after Cujo. Four movies for like $24, you know, VHSs.
Original, not like remake,
that's money well spent, man. And so that is such a bummer. I really hope that something happens in the future where they can bring it back, but I get it, they got to prioritize what they're doing. I'm not mad at them, but I'm deeply hurt, and I'm gonna cry about it later. So you know,
so pour one out for Frightmare HQ.
Where am I gonna find VHS?
I don't know, dude. It's tough. It's really tough. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about before we get into the interview here?
I'll just say that a wonderful person who follows me on TikTok sent me some fun stuff recently. I know them as Meg. I'm not even entirely sure that their name is Meg. Their user is Meg Delina. So I'm assuming that their name is Meg. We've chatted a bit, but they just were in some of my lives and sent me some fun movies. And so they sent me, it's funny, I'm bringing it up because we talk about it in our interview. We talk about John Waters a bit, but they sent me Pink Flamingo, which I haven't seen, and I'm very excited to see it. And they also sent me Santa Sangre, which I've heard of, and I know it's supposed to be a trip. So I'm very excited to watch those. And my friend Jamie also sent me season 3 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I have season 1, which you gave me as a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. Birthday gift?
A gift.
Christmas?
It was a gift in general.
It was a gift. It was a gift. It was something that you found and you said, I'm going to give this to Sean as a token of my love and appreciation for him. And you gave that to me. And so I have season 1 and season 3. And I'm just stoked to watch it. Because I've watched season 1 all the way through multiple times. And like new episodes to have access to. So that's just... that's just me bragging about cool stuff that people have sent me.
Shout out to friends and followers for giving gifts. I'm very excited. Both of our birthdays are coming up soon in June. And I have gifts just tantalizing me from roommates just sitting in the living room.
You're in the gift household. You're with Chelsea, you're with Kaylee, you're with Sydney. Like
perfect.
Yeah.
Very excited. As always, if you're listening to this episode or our podcast in general, thank you endlessly. If you haven't followed us on Twitter at Mostly Horror or on Instagram at Mostly Horror Movie Night, get on that because you get to see all the fun games and stuff. We make graphics. I make graphics for the games that we play and that sort of stuff throughout the week, and fun clips from our YouTube videos, which, by the way, we're on YouTube. Mostly Horror Movie Night. Every episode that we got is up on there, so make sure you follow those. But that's all we got for this intro. Short and sweet. We're gonna get over to our interview with Kay from the Salem Horror Fest. Hope you guys enjoy. Sean.
Yes, Steve.
You been bringing any groceries into your home recently?
I actually just went grocery shopping today.
When you brought in the groceries, did you also remember to bring horror into your home with you?
No, I forgot to put it on my list.
Dude, here's the thing. You always got to bring horror into your home. And the best way to bring horror into your home is with a handmade candle from the American Nightmare Candle Company.
Which, Mistress of the Night, you are a mind reader. Steve, are you a medium?
I think I'm an extra large.
That's so I call lies because you clearly are a medium because you just read my mind, Steve. If there's one way to bring horror into your home, it is exactly what you just said. It's the American Nightmare Candle Company. Each scent is inspired by locations iconic to the horror genre. I'm talking places like the Overlook Hotel. Ooh. I'm talking Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
I'm talking Elm Street, Steve.
You're talking Elm Street, Steve?
Elm Street, the Elm Street, Steve. I'm talking Mr. Clawhands himself. If you want your bedroom to smell like burning flesh and dead teenagers, these are the fragrances for you.
Wow.
Not literally, but inspiredly.
Yeah. Inspiredly. And that's what I'm saying. They have the best fragrances, and each fragrance combination that they make, it's carefully curated, and it transports you into the story. It doesn't transport you next to the story or above or below this. It transports you into the freaking story.
And that's exactly what I want, Steve. That's exactly what I need. I've been watching these movies as close to the screen as I can get, and I just need to be inside of the movie. You know what, Steve?
Yeah.
I need the American Nightmare Candle Company to take all of my money. I would pay full price for these, but what if I told you that we can get it for cheaper, Steve? What if I told you
get it for cheaper?
You can get it for cheaper. I'm talking 10% off when you use the promo code Mostly Horror at checkout.
You're telling me if I use the code Mostly Horror at checkout, I'll get 10% off of these candles?
Mostly Horror, Steve. That's exactly what I'm telling you.
That's amazing. Because see, I've been on the American Nightmare Candle Company Etsy, and I've been on their website, AmericanNightmareCandles.com, and I never knew that I could get a discount with 10% off with the promo code Mostly Horror. So that's
Mostly Horror.
That is amazing. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna stop recording. We're gonna go to AmericanNightmareCandles.com, and we're gonna bring horror into your home. All right, so today we are joined by K Lynch. K is the festival director and, quote, boss witch of the Salem Horror Fest. Salem Horror Fest has been running for 5 years, and Movie Maker magazine hails it as one of the world's 50 best genre festivals. K, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So obviously, hosting a festival in Salem is crazy and awesome just as a concept, but I think the underlying concept of the festival is even better. So I kind of just wanted to, have you talk about the origin of the fest, how it came to be, and the MO of the festival itself.
Sure. So I moved to Salem about 15 years ago, and I went to Salem State University, and I did advertising and theater and worked at the Center for the Arts. And so through my employment there, I did a lot of promotion for all different kinds of events, theater, art, music, all the departments, and then got into producing local theater in the area. So that kind of got me started into doing events in Salem. And it led to, I produced my own midnight rock horror show. I've done like short horror showcases. And so over the years, I had done these like Halloween related events, or horror related events, and had always thought like, it's a no-brainer that a festival should exist in Salem, and had always been surprised that it had never been done before. But it wasn't until the 2016 election that I decided to just do it. I was working full-time at a tech dating company and really having a miserable time in the corporate 9-to-5 life.
Right.
And then when the election happened, like everyone else, is just really upset, anxious, worried. And I wanted to figure out what I could do to help affect some change. But my entire background is like marketing and events. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to save the world with that. But I do have the city of Salem, which is this international, world-renowned, notorious city known for notorious for better or worse, mostly worse, and which brings with it a lot of tourists that come through our city. So I thought, well, I could use horror as sort of this like media criticism, media literacy platform to encourage people to look at horror as a reflection of our culture and our society. And like any form of art, that is the case. All art is political in the sense that it is commenting on something. And even if an artist isn't deliberately trying to make a statement, they're still creating and releasing their art into the world that is at a given time, at a given place, that is being perceived under a myriad of contexts. And so matching that with Salem's own history, I thought it was a really cool opportunity to sort of take advantage of people's interest, since over the years, Salem has gone from the history, everything I'm doing with the witch trials, to being like a Halloween party town, which is awesome because I love Halloween. But at the same time, it's like, well, we have to remind people that, how Salem got here and keep the lessons of 1692 alive. And so that has always been sort of like my driving mission with the program, is to try to come up with horror films or other kind of events that really dig into the subtext of, when it comes to gender, race, sexuality, really anything. We've done programs of like eco horror. We did like a whole Feed Your Brain series of horror films that were based on books to do a book drive and just encourage people to read more.
Nice.
So kind of using the platform just to kind of get people thinking beyond the screen.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. I love that. I love tying in all of the social issues and just trying to, it's more than just fun, but we're going to have a ton of fun while talking about a lot of serious stuff. I think that's great. I'm curious, how was especially with taking on like the political mission statement sort of side of it, how was the response from anything from locals to outsiders? Like, did you get a lot of hate in person, online? Were things attempted to be shut down? Like, can you go into that at all?
Yeah, all over the map, really. I mean, so of course, trolls everywhere, mostly online. We only really had maybe 2 or 3 people in person kind of approach us and confront us over some of our, political posts.
Yeah.
But, nothing, too crazy. But online perpetually, like all the time. It's just nonstop. But we're trying to cultivate a very specific, dedicated audience that is welcoming to the type of people that we're trying to attract, and they're like-minded people who celebrate diversity and just reject all forms of fascism and any sort of prejudice. So we're not too worried about them. But what I consider the greatest compliment in doing this festival is I've had quite a few people come up who don't identify themselves as horror fans, they or just outright dislike the genre, but they find our approach to it really interesting, and they kind of see the program as sort of this sociological perspective. And a lot of people have commented on how that's intrigued them, and it's push them to think of the genre a little differently. And so, I see that as an opportunity to widen that funnel. And so even if, everyone has their own perceptions of what horror is.
Yeah.
And, I'm really excited when someone says, oh, I don't really like horror, but I find this interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's how you reel them in, that's how you get horror fans. You get them, you show them one movie that's not what they expected, and next thing you know, they've seen all the Exorcist movies, and they got a bunch of weird stuff on their walls.
I mean, horror, there's so many subgenres, and there's so many different like takes on social issues that you really can go down so many different rabbit holes. And that's what I find the most exciting about the genre. But the biggest sort of everything coming to a head with regard to our political messaging came with we programmed an entire our Feed Your Brain program, actually, that was supposed to be held at the Salem Visitor Center. And so they had actually approached me. We'd love to work together, do something. I developed this program. We got the library involved, and someone online, some lawyer who was a Trump fanatic contacted like literally every single person in the city for some reason. It was like the mayor, the head of the tourism bureau, everyone at the visitor center, Chamber of Commerce, some other random people. I don't know why they were. It was just like this mass email basically saying that it was against some law or violation for any federal property to be displaying or conveying any sort of overt political message. And so that turned into the visitor center getting really worried and basically saying like, well, technically that's true. Yeah. So I learned a lot about that experience. And they said, they're like, well, we can't, like, we're going to have to take down some of the posts, or, we're going to have to ask you not to post any other political related messages. And so this was like 1 week before the festival was about to open. Wow. I just said, I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. And that night I just thought, I can't, like, this is our mission. I can't back down. So I just made a few phone calls, and we were thankfully able to relocate the festival and, maintain our mission and just be true to who we are.
Yeah. No, that's clearly the main important thing, I do like the TikTok thing, and I'll make political posts sometimes, and a decent amount, and a lot of people will be like, nice way to like limit your audience. But I liked what you were saying about you're trying to bring specific people together. Like, if you don't like what I'm talking about, you're not invited, man. Like, it wasn't for you. And I would rather have, like the all inclusion being necessary thing. Like, no, man, we want open-minded people here that aren't fascist, aren't assholes, bigots. You don't belong at what we're trying to do right now. And
it's the same. Also, I was just going to say it's the same thing that a lot of artists were doing. I mean, this past election, you would see artists posting about different things that normally wouldn't be advocating politically one way or another, and their fans would say, way to lose a fan. And a lot of the artists are like, fuck you, I don't need you as a fan, I don't want you as a fan, if that's what your position is, which completely makes sense. So I get that.
And it's also a signal to everyone out there that we won't tolerate that. And so there are so many events and even horror festivals that are that I've been to where, as far as I could tell, I was the only queer person. And my husband is a Black man, and so often he walks into a room or event and he's the only Black man or person of color in the room. And so when people say, oh, we're welcoming to everyone, then it's like, well, sometimes we don't want certain people in this space if they're going to make other people uncomfortable. And so, we just want everyone to know that our festival, our events are really welcoming to everyone except bigoted fascist assholes. And it's worked out really well. Salem as a community is also in line with that. I mean, most of the businesses and organizations here are very progressive and diverse, and Salem has attracted a lot of creative, curious weirdos over time. Like, we have the Satanic Temple's headquarters is here.
I didn't know that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Salem is the second oldest city in the country, and being on the water, we were actually like a very huge influential international port to the rest of the world. And so we actually have a lot of history when it comes to like spice trade, pirates. Yeah, just like, people think, oh, it's, the place of the witches. And it's like, But we also have a lot of other really interesting things. We're the home of the National Guard. So it's, such an old city with a lot of history. And it's attracted a lot of really interesting and welcoming people.
Yeah. Dude, witch pirates. I'm so down. I'm so down. Also, I don't know if you guys can hear, but my cat is screaming she's in a horror movie right now. Good. Well, I just want you to know I'm not keeping like someone in my basement. It's just Cara craving attention. I'm really curious. So obviously I know now that it's a super welcoming environment. But can we kind of get a breakdown if we were to show up at your festival right now, because it's not really like a convention, they're different. Steve made it very apparent to me that those are very different things. I go to conventions a lot that include film festivals in them. Sure. So like if I show up at your event, what can I expect to see around? What do we got going on?
Yeah, well, so our approach since the beginning was to kind of treat it like a little mini South by Southwest, in the sense that when you go to South by, you're not just going to the festival, you're going to the city of Austin. Mm-hmm. And the entire city participates in that energy, like the bars, the restaurants, everyone is doing something to kind of tap into the, this community that builds up over the course of the event. When I worked for Manhunt and Jacked, I actually flew down there to throw gay parties during South by Southwest. Nice. And so what that why that's really exciting is that it encourages people to experience the city, and that's something that we want to do with Salem as well, because if people are coming, we don't want people to be trapped in like a dark room the entire time. And so one of the ways we tap into that is by programming at various different venues. And so we would do it at the PBD Essex Museum, at the cinema, at a former church, at a monster museum. We've Ames Hall, we've done so many different places. And we create this little map and we just say, okay, this event's happening at this time over here, and really encourage, foot traffic to experience the city in between events. And Salem's actually a really small city, so it's like this little mini campus. Mm-hmm. But we have been amorphous, so we do show a lot of films, but we had done a lot of guests too, and so we've kind of like dipped our toe in the water of like convention like experiences. But it's been challenging because it's, when you go to a convention, typically it's like in a hotel and they're all, everyone's just seated. We don't have that kind of space. And so and October is insane. Like it's a clusterfuck. So what we've learned over the years and tried all different kinds of things. Obviously COVID changed things a lot, and we had to do things virtually. So we're trying to really fine tune where we're at. So if you come, basically you're going to be immersed in the city. There's going to be premieres of original films. There's going to be programs of repertory films, older films. There's going to be panels, podcasts, sometimes musical performances. There's two that we're really hoping will come through this year. And just really try to create as much as we can. Yeah. It's really overwhelming. No,
I can only imagine.
But it's a great place to do it. And actually, we're looking at moving the Core Fest to May next year, just to create more of an intimate, direct connections among people who attend. Because since Salem is so overwhelming in October with people, after you go to an event, at other conventions or festivals, you go to a bar and you see other people with the lanyards and say, oh, hey, and it's kind of this like great, easy icebreaker to meet new people. Yeah. You're lucky if you can even get into a bar in October. So we're trying to find a way where people are here for the festival, that we can encourage more engagement amongst each other and like really focus on the program while still doing events in October. But we want to draw a little more energy into that and show people how beautiful Salem is in the spring. Also, everything that happens in October also happens in May. The only difference is the amount of people. Salem gets 1 million visitors every year, and half of that is in October alone. So
that makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
So we hope we can sort of stretch that season out, help the economy in the off season, in a time where people can wear shorts and short sleeve
Yeah.
shirts, and yeah, start a new thing. Every Halloween is every May is Halloween.
Halloween, yeah. I like that concept because it's like you're not, people are already there in October, like you said. I mean, you're not. I mean, I'm sure you're bringing more people to Salem that might not have gone to Salem then, but it's like you're not. You're just adding on to what the city already has coming. So it's like when you do it in May, you're making a concerted effort, like you said, with the economy. You're really riling up a lot and bringing people that might not have been, not why go to Salem in May, but like people don't normally think of that. So it's just a perfect opportunity to do that sort of thing. I would love to go to Salem in May. I'm in New England now, so I'm like, I want to get out to Salem so badly. Yeah, I'm in New York City, so
awesome.
I trust me. October, when you guys are going, I will be there because I already went to Sleepy Hollow because that's only an hour away. So cool. I'm like, gotta go to Salem too.
I want to go. Well, let me know so I can help you find a place. Another big reason for moving it is there are actually only a few like boutique hotels in Salem, and they fill up so quickly. When you stay in Salem, the hotels on November 1st, to all the guests, they say, you all have first dibs to book in hotels again. And so 20% of people who stayed in Salem book again for the next year, which means there's only 80% of the inventory available. And that goes up so quickly over the weekends. During the weeks, it's pretty open. And so that's another reason when people hear of our festival in August, and they're like, oh, I really want to come. And they look online, they're like, bah, where do I stay? And there are places that people can stay. They're just, we need to educate them and let people know where these places are. And they might not be in the downtown area. It is possible. That's another reason why, another benefit to moving in May is because there'll just be a lot more availability for people to stay in the downtown area. The hotels will be cheaper. Over the $400 a night. And it's just a little more breathing room for everybody.
Well, plus you're getting a collective, like, okay, for people that love horror and love Halloween all year, like it's Halloween in my bedroom every day, but it's obviously in October, it's nice to see it bleed out into the rest of the environment. And if you got to wait a year, like the horror convention I go to is in spring. It's always been in spring. So it's nice to have that weekend where I'm like, oh, thank God it's Halloween this weekend. And then I get to go, it's like a little checkpoint to get me to the next one. So I think, that's great.
Great concept.
It's absolutely great.
So I know that you mentioned it earlier, but what have you guys had to do during COVID? I mean, we talked to 2 weeks ago when this episode comes out, we talked to the Morbid podcast, the co-host of that, Ash and Elena, and we talked to them about how they had to kind of change the format of, trying to do live shows and that sort of stuff with their podcast. So what have you guys done with the festival this year to be able to have income and also do the festival?
We obviously had to pivot to virtual and under short notice too. We actually had October already planned out. Things were on sale starting in January, and we were planning an event in May called Women with Guts, and it was going to be just like a feminist themed weekend of horror programming. And so as the year went on, we're like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna happen. So we had to deal with all that, cancel all that, and then rethink our program for October. And I just did research. I attended some other virtual festivals, just kind of looked around to see what our options were. Came across the Vimeo OTT platform, and just pulled the trigger. And it was a good experience. We've learned a lot from it. And one of the biggest benefits to it is it's essentially like a streaming platform like Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything, where you log in and you've got these different channels of content based around certain themes or whatnot. So for us, that means feature films, shorts, podcasts, panels, lectures. So we recorded a bunch of all that stuff and featured, curated a program of the feature films and the shorts. Something that really worked out in doing that is we were able to give a greater focus and emphasis on the independent films. So when we do the festival live, at least the first 3 years, it's actually really difficult to lean into independent because, one, we're such a young festival, our funnel of submissions is really small. Two, people have to drive through traffic, find parking, buy a ticket and sit in a dark room to see a film they know nothing about.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we don't really get big audiences, or we hadn't at first, big audiences for these independent films. And so that is something we knew was going to take time. We're going to have to grow, to just get the name out and, to develop a loyalty from our audience, for people to trust our curation, and to have a really big pool of films to choose from. And so, and also the repertory stuff is pretty easy to license live. But though all these, the Days of the Dead, the Toxic Avenger, the Witch, all these films, Suspiria, these are, the rights are all tied up on other much bigger streaming platforms.
Yeah. So,
also means we have to rely even more so on the independent stuff, and how that really took off was the level of investment for people sitting on the couch to watch something, check something out that they've never heard of before. They can get 5 minutes in and think, okay, maybe this isn't for me. And there's still other stuff for people to check out. And so I think that opened the door for people to just kind of explore. And it also allowed all of the filmmakers to be, really present on social media, to hype up their films and talk to people as they're watching it. The films were all available on demand per weekend, but we also had a live feed. So we were promoting screenings at certain times.
Gotcha.
And so the filmmakers would get on Twitter and do a live tweet or answer questions. And we had all these pre-recorded Q&As. And it really widened their reach as well, too, because their film was not only being seen by a group of people in one space. So there was they were able to get a lot more critic reviews and write-ups and social traction. And so a lot of the films that we premiered got picked up by Shudder and
nice
Collective and other Arrow. Threshold, which is one of my favorites, got picked up by Arrow. They're going to get a Blu-ray release out of it.
Wow.
And so it really put our name on the map in a bigger way too. And so now we have these relationships with the distributors, and that really allows us to offer even greater support to the independent filmmakers. And so after last year, I think it really pushed us forward a lot quicker in a space to be able to give more stage to independent film.
No, that's amazing. It's funny. I would just approach the virtual thing like as a guest of it. I would approach it the same way I would, a convention or a festival. I'm going to throw back like 4 drinks, have like a couple people over, COVID safe in this situation, but a couple people over. And like, as fun as it's going to be to watch Creature from the Black Lagoon or The Witch or something I already love, I'm also trying to get trashed and watch Gut Fungus 9 and be like, what's this about? Like, I'm so stoked to see what this is, like that's
real. Is that a thing? Gut Fungus?
No, it should be. Let's make it.
I was going to say about that. That's
right.
That's
what I'm saying. When you're at a convention, like, if it's Creature, I'm probably going to go see Creature. But if I see, Halloween screening in room 407 and, Gut Fungus 9 and 1408, I'm going to be like, let's throw these beers back. Gut Fungus starts in 10 minutes. Grab a slice of pizza and let's go. Like, I want to see that, Well,
that's always what the festival, at least anytime that I've been to a film festival, it's always, you want to see those small films. For me personally, like, I want to be one of the first people that's watched it or given this film a chance. You know what I mean? Just because there's so, especially in the horror community, the independent film, the amount of people that make independent films it's so vast, and there's so much great content that people just don't get to see, unless Shudder sees or something like that. So
I think when it comes to independent film, it's so much weirder. Like, you're able to take your risks and do weirder things. And even with the shorts, because of the format, like, you don't really have a ton of time to tell a lot of story. And so it really pushes you to create these sort of like bursts of horror that you won't see the types of themes or plots or whatnot in a feature length, just because an hour and a half couldn't support that idea.
Yeah.
But in 5 minutes, you can see something that you've never saw before. And so I always am looking for something that I haven't seen before, or a new take on something. And so that's a big reason why I really like independent DIY film, is because people are able to take greater risks with it.
Yeah, you got to get weird fast. And this is like the best way to do it. Obviously, ideally, we could all do it together at a festival, at a convention, meeting up, but even in a virtual sense, like I said, invite some people over and yeah. So I'm really curious. I heard that you guys are partnering with the George A. Romero Foundation, which I don't even know a ton about that foundation. I obviously love Romero, but I realized that I don't know a ton of it. So can you kind of talk about that relationship?
Sure. Well, so following up on the independent film track, because of the experience we had last year, I really wanted to double down on our support for the independent filmmakers. And so I was trying to think, what can we do to offer that? And when I think about the spirit of independent film and DIY filmmaking, I always think of George because he really turned Pittsburgh into his own horror Hollywood.
Yeah.
And he was such a hyper local guy with really big ideas, and him and his group of friends just started a business and figured it out. They just made it up as they went along. And so I just think that's such like a punk rock spirit that I really honor, and just just try to remind everyone that like anyone can do this. Like you can it can be difficult, but you don't need a huge budget to make something of value and something that people will find interesting. And so thinking of George being like the perfect patron saint for a sort of fellowship program that I was starting to develop, in which essentially like a mentor program, we would reach out to more established directors who had been in the DIY world and had made a couple films, and now they're in the producer land. They're able to get financing for new projects, and have them share their knowledge and experience that they have amassed over time, and doing it as a way to help accelerate other people who are just getting started. Mm-hmm. So I developed this whole concept and just wanted to name it after George. And so I approached the foundation asking for their blessing, and they said, "Oh, this is actually something we've been wanting to do, but don't have the bandwidth. So why don't we just partner?" I was like, "Oh, okay." It was like right. Kismet. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And so, so it's officially part of the Romero Foundation's mission and programs. It's the George A. Romero Foundation is run by his wife, Susan Romero, and they were involved with starting the George Romero Archive at the University of Pittsburgh. And so getting them all of these boxes full of scripts and props and notes and media, and the archive department, the library at Pittsburgh, is going through it all, documenting it. The lost film that George had made, the industrial film, The Amusement Park, actually came out of that. They're like, there's an entire film here. So they got it to the people to restore it. Shudder picked it up. And there's a short, Iron City Ass Kickers, that has been finished and is going to be released soon. There was a short that he had made that was like a pitch for a bigger film about a Bigfoot movie called Jacaranda Joe. Whole scripts for movies like that were never made, but also like drafts of scripts that had changed completely from like early drafts as Dawn of the Dead, and publicity materials, just all this stuff. So now all that lives at the university, and they're still cataloging all of it.
Yeah.
So that was like their first big initiative, was getting that started. And now we're doing this fellowship together, and we have a lot of ideas to do some other things together in the coming years. And they also have some other initiatives that are in the works too. So it's really cool to see that, that the spirit of George lives on.
Yeah. No, I love that.
I told Sean a couple of weeks ago when they announced that the amusement park was coming to Shudder in June, and I was like, "Did you hear about this? Like, can you believe that they just found a whole ass film that he made? Like, that concept is just insane to me, and I'm very stoked to see it too. Yeah.
It's really good. It's cool. It's really cool.
I bet it looks insane. So obviously outside of the horror festival, you talked about your background a little bit with advertising and the arts and theater and that sort of stuff. Where did you start with horror? Like what was we always ask people, the kind of the beginning of your experience, whether it was a movie or a book or whatever it may be. So we're always curious to know where that started for you.
Yeah.
Very first taste was with Gremlins.
Nice.
Always a film that everyone had. Like all my friends, I go over, sleep over, whatever. Like everyone had. I didn't have that movie, but everywhere I went, I'm like, "What's this movie? Let's watch this movie." But I could never get past the scene where the teacher puts the candy bar under the desk, because that's when they go from being the cute Mogwai to the scary Gremlin. Yeah. So they're like, "Oh, well, that was great. Let's go do something else." Yeah. So I'd actually seen the beginning of the film quite a few times before I eventually seen watched the entire thing. And so that just kind of like captured my imagination, and finishing that film was like my first like pushing myself that rite of passage, and which is a big element to loving horror, is like seeing something that you don't think you're prepared for.
Yes.
And so that kind of got me in, but what like sealed the deal is Carrie, watching Carrie on TNT Monster Vision with Joe Bob.
Nice.
Just obviously connected to the story as being like a weird outcast queer kid. And then the very last scene, the stinger, when she's putting flowers on the grave and the hand pops up. And I like nearly fell off of the couch. My heart was racing, and I saw it during the time where like in high school, I was like a freshman or sophomore, and our biology class had like a box for kids to put like anonymous questions in, so the teacher would answer them. They're really, for like kids who were embarrassed to ask questions about puberty and stuff. But I put in a question of like, what is the feeling when you're watching a horror movie that makes you feel like you're having a heart attack? So obviously, adrenaline is the answer. Yeah. So I became hooked on that, and just being like, whoa. And Joe Bob does this every Saturday night, so I would watch every Saturday night. That became like appointment viewing. At the time, I would wake up to watch the Saturday morning cartoons, but then in the afternoon there would be the horror movies on like UPN, like all UHF stations and whatnot, and that is where I really got to see a lot of the trash, like Munchies. House was actually really
nice.
I remember that is a film that I remember very vividly watching for the first time, because it's bonkers.
Yeah. I remember watching that. I watched House when I was in film school for a semester in Chicago, and our professor for whatever had us watch it just to show us like movies can be whatever you want them to be. And just learning that this was a guy, the director was a guy who just was like, he was big in like the ad space in what was it, China or Japan? I can't remember where he's from, but he was just basically used to making ads and marketing stuff, and so that's why it's so bright and crazy and like insane the whole time. But just an obviously like amazing experience. So you talking about House and kind of just niche horror, during the time that we've been talking before this interview, kind of getting ready for it, you sent me your letterbox. I'm a huge letterbox user. I love showing all the things or recording all the things that I watch, but the things that you've seen and the movies that you've recorded, you are a true cinephile, I would say. I'm very curious, you know, do you just want to watch like anything that piques your interest? Do you have specific things that you're into? Because the range of things that you have on your letterbox is insane. And I also don't know how you watch that many movies, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what, you know, when you're going out to watch film, whether it be horror or just film in general, are you really just taking in everything, or are there specific things that you're looking for?
I definitely have certain like lead, you know, things that like horror, obviously, on the top of my pile. You know, I'll watch pretty much anything horror. And I will pretty much watch any type of movie, although there are certain, like, romance doesn't really do it for me. Period British stuff doesn't really do it for me. I can pretty much find something in anything else.
Gotcha.
But I worked at Blockbuster for 5 or 6 years, and working there. What's that?
I said that'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, it was just going to the video store. And I always loved renting from the middle of the store because you could get a ton for, you know, cheap money.
Yeah.
And so I would every week just, you know, on a Tuesday walk out like a stack of tape. I'll be like, all right, I'm going to watch all the Nicole Kidman stuff this week. I'm going to watch all the Russell Crowe stuff this week, all the Kevin Spacey stuff this week. Always wanted to work at a video store. And I used to, every time I would go to the Blockbuster, I would ask, are you hiring? Are you hiring? They're like, well, you have to be 16. We can't hire you yet. I'd be like, all right. When I actually went on my 16th birthday to apply, I'm like, I'm 16 now. Hire me.
Nice.
And there we were allowed to rent 5, you know, take home 5 films a week for free.
Yeah.
And so I would do that and watch a lot of old stuff, but also be able to see the new stuff before it came out. My favorite thing in the world was when I got to start doing the new release wall. So like every Monday we have to like make room for the new stuff and shift everything around. And it was a great excuse for me to just look at the back of everything and just take my time.
Yeah.
Like, what's this one about? And so I've always been kind of like an omnivore in that sense. And the more I've gotten into it, the more it's really accelerated my hunger to learn more. And, you know, the more criticism that I read exposes to me more. I listen to a ton of podcasts. So, you know, I'm trying to go through, you know, some of the like quote high cinema stuff to just
Criterion stuff.
I love Criterion Channel and just kind of seeing, exposing to myself to all kinds of art house films. With horror, it's just there's so many different rabbit holes you can go down.
Yeah.
I love just getting in the weeds.
Yeah.
But in general, I'm looking for stuff that's weird or like unique or something that I haven't seen before. Ultimately, and thankfully, there's a lot out there. There's no shortage of it. You just got to know where to look. Right. And so Letterboxd for me has become my video rental store now. Like that experience is gone. But when I go onto Letterboxd, that's my number one app. I'm just like reading about all these films, going through my watch list. Ever since they introduced the services feature on there where you can just like filter your watch list based on the streaming services you have.
Yeah.
Like, this is incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to get on there more. I
told you that really forever ago, man.
I know you did. You did. And I downloaded it, but I got to start using it. 100%. I'm curious, backtracking a little bit, because you said you kind of jumped in with like Gremlins and then pretty much straight to Carrie and stuff. Did you watch? I love like horror for kids too. So were you reading any or watching any things like that? Or are you into anthology series too, like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, Night Gallery, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, Goosebumps was a thing for a long time. other random horror stuff that was more like the one-offs, like My Teacher's an Alien kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what was it? Bunnicula?
Yeah.
Bunnicula. Yeah.
Yep.
Goosebumps was like he just cranked those out, and I loved the covers. It was really the thing that I loved most. It was just staring at the book.
Yep.
Shout out to Tim Jacobus.
We had him on the show.
You did?
Yeah. He's like our
seven,
there you go. I thought he was like 5, but okay. Yeah,
he's been on the show. We haven't had a ton of episodes. He's been on either way.
He's on. We actually worked with him last year. We commissioned him to do a tribute to Joe Dante.
Nice.
So we have this really cool poster of
that's amazing.
All these creatures from Joe's films. But yeah, I loved those books. And Tales from the Crypt was my big biology show. Then I love that show. And yeah, that was really what got me into, introduced me to sort of like the sick and twisted sort of fairy tale aspect of horror. Like bad people get what they deserve.
Yeah.
And so I really like that, and hope they can figure out a way to put it out on Blu-ray.
Fingers crossed. Are you a physical collector? Like do you collect a lot? Okay, cool. I love when people, I also do too, and it's there you go.
That was a big one.
Someone
That's
just said
I always force my sister to watch. She would hate me.
Nice.
It's a great one. So, and then one other thing, so we want to get to your recommendations. We obviously want to get to our game, but I'm curious, one thing that you mentioned earlier when you were talking about conventions is queer representation in horror, and also representation for people of color in horror. And for someone that, whenever we've talked about it on the show, obviously we're two straight white guys, and so we try to have a lot of diversity on the show because we are not diverse ourselves. But I'm curious, with viewing a lot of horror, especially independent horror, are you seeing an increase in representation? Like obviously in major motion picture horror, you have Jordan Peele, and you have, a lot of new, specifically Black directors coming out and female directors. But I'm curious, for you seeing a lot of independent films and that sort of thing, are you seeing like a dramatic change in representation?
I wouldn't say dramatic.
Okay.
I still think, in terms of like Black filmmakers, queer filmmakers, I still think that's like crawling, just moving out of crawl. Like there's still so few that are like actively working. But women filmmakers have really exploded and has grown pretty quickly in the last few years, which is great, and I hope that trend continues. I think horror attracts a lot of marginalized people who feel like outsiders, and the horror genres is a great place to sort of like work through that. And so I think it's really important that more of a concentrated effort is done to reflect the people who are watching it, and it's also just a huge opportunity to expand the types of stories that could be told. Horror is always telling the same tropes over and over again, and often from the same perspective. And so there's just so many other types of stories that are waiting to be told.
Yes, I was about to say, obviously I'm stoked for change and like to make it more inclusive on the political and social aspect of it. But even just for the sake of art, we know what white straight dudes are afraid of. Like I want more stories that are, you know what I mean? Like you're drawing from it a completely different perspective. You're going to get such unique things. That's what I want. Like I want that so bad, because that's what horror is. It's a representation of fears, like from just as humans to specific cultures and societies. Like give me all the horror from every type of group, every type of person. That's what I want.
One of my inspirations for the festival is the quote from Roger Ebert, where he says that movies are empathy machines because they allow us to experience life and see the world through someone else. And
Yes.
With horror, I like to look at it as it is a way for us to experience other people's fears and anxieties, because like you said, we all have our own. But to see someone else's in sort of like a dramatic cinematic presentation, where the whole, there's all these mechanisms deliberately trying to get you to feel that terror as well. I feel like that too is a great way for people to learn more about each other, because we're all afraid of different things. And I feel like one of the big things that comes up when it comes to like political fights, there tends to be, something that often comes up is like, you're overreacting. I don't understand what you're afraid of, or this, and that's a big part of horror. Like the woman who says, or the wife is like, there's a ghost in the house, we gotta move.
Yeah.
The husband's like, no, you're crazy.
Right.
So I look at horror as a way to validate people's fears. So when people are told you're overreacting or whatever, it's a way to feel like, no, my fear, my anxiety is valid. And here's a healthy way to navigate that. It's a way to experience all of this as a catharsis, but it's also, it has guardrails because it's a film, as a being middle and end. And so when other people are watching this movie and they might not be afraid of certain things, they can at least experience the tension that is being built through the film. And I hope that can be, a way that we get to learn from each other too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Could not agree more.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
You normally don't think of film as what on the surface, you don't think of film as a vehicle for that. And that's a very articulate way of saying that. And I agree. I mean, I felt the end of Get Out. I've never been more afraid for someone to see a police car pull up, and I'm like, shit. Not that I didn't understand, but it's like, you feel that viscerally. So that makes sense. All right, before we hop into the game, which we have a very fun game picked up for this, we want to get your recommendations. So we want a mostly recommendation, and if you want to give us 2 horror, I'm sure you got a million that you could give us, but let's go with 1 horror, 1 mostly recommendation. So just whatever movie you want, and then 2 horror recommendations.
Sure. So my first one would be an Albert Brooks film called Lost in America. I never really watched his films much until lately, and now I'm really into him. And Lost in America is on the Criterion Channel. Albert Brooks he was an actor, director, writer, comedian. And he wrote this film about this advertising guy who thinks he's going to get a promotion. And so he's like envisioning his life, being rich and how it's going to just get so much better. But it turns out he was getting fired. So him and his wife decide, you know what? Fuck this. Let's just go off the grid and do what we always wanted to do. Get a Winnebago and just travel the country. So that's what they do. And along the way, I don't want to give too much, but it's really about these people kind of having a midlife crisis and trying to figure out what's next in their life. And it sounds, pretty traditional, but what's remarkable about it is that it's one of the funniest films I've seen in years.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Cool.
So funny. Like the writing is really quick. Albert Brooks is a very neurotic person and a very neurotic artist. It comes through in all his characters and his writing. And watching that film, I realized, I haven't researched this yet, but watching him in that movie, I would not be surprised if Jason Alexander had used him as a direct inspiration for George Costanza, like that level of neurosis.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I'm stoked to give it a shot.
Is that the cover? It's like a couple with their head in the sand. They're like sticking out. Okay. I haven't seen. It sounds familiar. I haven't seen it, but I do know what it looks like. So that makes sense.
Okay. Cool.
Sweet. That's a good pick. What about one of the horror ones?
So the other one I would recommend, Death by Temptation, just came to Shudder. It's a 1990 horror film. It was directed, written, directed, produced, and stars James Bond III, who was a very prolific child actor on television for many years. And he managed to create this film that stars Samuel Jackson, Bill Nunn, and has all sorts of crazy like ideas in it, that only a film that is so uniquely a singular vision. Like, so he's a Black creator, and you could tell that this film was really personal to him, and you can also tell that he must have thought he was never going to make another film again, so let's do everything.
Okay.
One movie. So it deals with and he's very young. He was in his 20s when he made it. So he plays this son of a preacher, very religious, and he goes to visit his friend who's an actor in New York City, and kind of living this free life of partying and women, and he's kind of getting a taste of that world. And there's this succubus woman who is like devouring men and turning them into vampires. And so it becomes this sort of like this really cute like buddy comedy with a succubus.
Love it.
And it's just really wild. It's like visually interesting. It's got like notes of Cronenberg and Fulci.
Okay.
It's just like an amazing example of the type of film that can be made, when someone is given the resources or has the resources to just make something that is uniquely theirs.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. And you said it's on Shudder now?
It's on Shudder, yeah.
Just got on Shudder. Okay, sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Death by Temptation. And then do you want to give us another horror one? Just like want to throw out another horror rec that you got?
So I watched a new queer horror film a couple days ago called The Retreat.
The Retreat. I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So this lesbian couple is going to this cabin in the woods to celebrate their friend's engagement. And when they get there, the couple is nowhere to be seen, but their like suitcases are seen open. Like clearly they had been on the property, but are not there. Their car is there, but they can't find them. And what ends up happening is they feel like someone's watching them, and then it turns into someone's hunting us. And so they're essentially like alone in the woods, and there are these these yokels, these people who don't like them for being queer. And I can't, I'm trying not to like reveal too much, but it's an exploitation film. It's like kind of, it's not a rape revenge story, but it is in that vein of, you're messing with us, you're messing with people I care about. Now I'm going to fuck you up.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I've definitely heard of that one, especially as you were explaining it, and I meant to watch it. I just have not gotten there yet, so it's on my list now officially. Let's go.
That's really cool.
Which is why you need a letterbox.
I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna get it all set up.
We'll get it done. Sick. Those are great recommendations. But now it's time for the game. We have a great game. So normally, we do a lot of top fives, but we were trying to think of something to rope in Salem, and top five witches is too simple and kind of basic, and we want to do something fun. So what we want to do is we want to basically build a coven. So we are going to create a coven that's run by one witch, an actual witch, either in pop culture or movies or really, if you want to put Goody Proctor, that's fine. Go ahead. Well, I don't know if that was the actual name. I know it wasn't the Crucible. But talk about what kind of magic they do and name the coven run by this one witch. And then the coven also has, obviously most covens have 13 or more, but we're going to pick 4 non-witches. Could be a real person, could be a movie character, whatever you want, and talk about why they would be in the coven, why you think they would be a good witch, that sort of stuff. So essentially a top 5, but we're changing up the rules a little bit. So we will, obviously guest always goes first. Okay, you can go first if you want to talk about, the name of your coven, the MO of the coven, and then choose your high priestess, the number 1 witch, and then we'll kind of just go in a circle and choose our covens from there. But feel free, go ahead, start us off.
Okay. I forgot about the part of naming it.
It's fine. We'll come back. You can name it at the end once you have everyone all together.
But my head witch is Angelica Houston.
Nice.
Okay. And obviously she was in The Witches, but I just believe that Angelica Houston, the person, is also a witch. She just has so much dark energy to her. So much power and presence. Obviously she's an Addams family. I see her as like high priestess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't argue it. Yeah. Solid pick. Lots of power immediately.
Yep. That's totally a good one. Sean, I'm gonna go next because you always go second, and
that's fine.
My shit. So my head witch, my high priestess is going to be the animated Maleficent, because green and purple is a great color scheme. She can turn into a dragon. She has a lot of influence on people, in a good or a positive or negative way. But I just feel like you can't really go wrong with Maleficent. She's like a true kind of badass. In reference to some witches that I can't pick because they wouldn't really fit, I'm gonna call my coven the Hex Girls, in reference to the Scooby-Doo Hex Girls.
I love
Shout out to my buddy Ahmed for giving me that recommendation, but can't miss it. I gotta go with Maleficent as my head witch.
I like it.
Sean, what do you think?
Hex Girls. For my pick? Or just about your thing? What
do you think about my choice?
I was like, why are you singling me out? But no, I like it. So my head witch. So I also forgot about naming it, which it's my show and I forgot about naming it, but I'm going to name it as we go. I thought about it a few minutes before we started recording, but my head witch is Sophie Cromwell from Halloween Town. She is the younger sister. But I'm talking, she's going to be, it's Sophie grown up. I think Sophie has the potential. I've been saying this for a minute. I have some Halloween TikToks, but I think that, or Halloween Town TikToks, I think that Sophie Cromwell has the potential to have a really great, like, turn to the dark side arc for a lot of reasons. Some of her earliest memories are people challenging her parents that are dark witches and wizards. So I think when she hits her angsty, like, teen phase, that's what she's going to think of in terms of rebellion. She's clearly the most powerful Cromwell. She was showing a ton of power early on, and dude, I'm telling you, and your
knowledge of the Halloween Town mythology never ceases to impress me.
Dude, I fuck with that series, and yeah, dude, I think she's gonna grow up and become like a dark witch. She's gonna kind of, because Grandma Aggie really prioritized Marnie when Sophie clearly had all this power, and I think she's just going to leave the Cromwells behind, and she might call us like the Hollowed or something like that. She's going to be pretty theatrical, I think. But yeah, absolutely, and we're going to just get into all sorts of nonsense and try to bring Halloween back to humanity. She's going to be like, we don't want just our town. And I'm about it.
That's so good. Come to the show for the interviews and stay for Sean rambling about Halloween Town.
Hey man. also quick brag, but the actress who plays Sophie follows me on TikTok.
Oh, that's the only reason you said it. It's fine.
That's not true.
No, I know. It's good. Yeah, it's good. Your explanation definitely makes up for the choice.
The choice is amazing, and you're just whatever, right, dude.
All right, Kay, who are you choosing to fill out your coven? We can just go one. We'll just have you do one, and we'll all do one at a time.
Cool. I'm gonna go with Lil Nas X.
Dude,
because
he's on my list. I'm so glad I have extras because I was trying to come up with it. I'll let you explain. I was trying to come up with it, and I saw his performance on SNL, and I was like, Lil Nas would be a killer fucking witch. But anyways, go ahead and explain.
Well, I mean, I think you might actually be.
Yeah.
No, I adore him. I'm just so happy and proud for him. He's just killing it. He's pissing people off. He's worshiping Satan.
Yeah.
He's mainstreaming, just like unending queer energy.
Yeah.
He's unapologetic about who he is.
Yes.
And is a true artist. Like, he's clearly just investing a lot of time and energy in developing his voice and his aesthetic. And I just think that he's going to own the world.
That's fair.
It honestly feels like it. I love that. The best thing about Lil Nas X's kind of trajectory and his story is that he didn't come out fully until he had already become more or less a household name because of Old Town Road. And so he was able to get, like, he didn't, I think that the Satan stuff from Montero has had more pushback than his just coming out did, which is so great. Like, he's had this huge force rallying behind him this whole time. And it's just been a positive trajectory, which, like, if someone has a big career or even a budding career, and they come out, it might shift things, but he's just been going from the get-go, and it's so cool to see.
He 100% Trojan horsed his way into, or these ideas and stuff into like conservative white American homes. And I think that's great. You make like a super, super popular song, and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to piss all of these people off. I'm going to get your kids hooked. And then I'm going to be like, I'm gay, and here's some Satan for you. And I just think that that's beautiful. Like, that's so wonderful.
It's so great. I pray that he has a really good circle of people who are supporting him, and that he doesn't get into drugs, and he just is able to, stick with the art and just develop his voice, because the sky's the limit for him.
100% agree.
Great pick.
I'm glad that I have an extra. Glad I got extra choices, because I was like, no one's going to choose Lil Nas.
People steal your picks all the time, man.
I know, it's wild, and I try to be like cool with it too, and people still steal them. All right, so my second choice, I have a couple of movie and TV characters, but I'm going to choose my one real person, and I'm going to choose. Actually, they're on SNL together yesterday, Anya Taylor-Joy. And basically she's kind of like, a new age shapeshifter in terms of she can really take on a bunch of different roles. She already has experience in becoming a witch, more or less. But I just think that you need that, like, the person that doesn't need a whole lot of training and can just kind of become a witch easily, which it seems like Anya Taylor-Joy can. Also very excited to see her in the new Edgar Wright movie that comes out in October. Last night in Soho. Just throwing that out there too.
Nice.
So,
solid.
I was gonna say Thomason, but I'm like, Anya Taylor-Joy as a whole. Needs to be the choice. So that's what I'm running with.
She has that energy. I mean, there's something about her, like her eyes and the way that she carries herself. Like, she's otherworldly.
Totally
100%.
Totally agree. Also, just extremely like infinitely talented, which is wonderful. Sean, who are you choosing for your second?
Creed Bratton. Creed from The Office.
It is from The Office.
Yeah. Creed. Well, just tell me I'm wrong, man. First off, he's a cast magician. All right, a complete cast magician. He is just all into cast magic. I feel like, he would hold so much wisdom that he would give off in the weirdest ways. Like, he would say some shit that doesn't make any sense to you immediately, and then you'd think about it later, and you're like, what the fuck was Creed talking about? And I just feel like a powerful wizard, that would bring a lot to the table. I think if you've seen The Office, it's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Never would have thought.
A man has lived a lot, and he clearly knows something that we don't.
Yeah. Oh,
He knows
yeah.
far too much of things that we don't.
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
Can't even explain
Used
it.
to be in the grassroots, like run it. I'm just all about it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Nope, that makes sense. That's a good choice. That's a very good
Thank
choice.
you.
All right, Kay, what do you think for your next one?
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Julie Louise Dreyfus.
Okay.
I think we need some humor and comedy.
Yep.
And she also just has this commanding energy to her that, she's very acidic, like she's very cutting. And she is beautiful, but I think that she just her wit and her tongue is just like is a weapon in of itself.
Yeah.
And I adore her and everything. I could watch her really do anything. And so we need to laugh. So I want to have her around.
Yeah.
100%. I've been wanting to watch she's in Veep, right? Yeah, she's the Veep person. I have been wanting to watch Veep for so long and I haven't. And I have only heard good things and just recently realized that Sam Richardson's in it, who's like one of my favorite people. So
yeah, it's a great show. I would say when you first start watching it though, like many shows, like you kind of have to get into the second season. So if you and like Seinfeld and other shows, like it's one of those shows where like there are no redeemable characters. So it was very off-putting to me at first watching it. I'm like, these are all assholes. Why do I want to?
Yeah, it's a show about politics. It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But it gets to a point where the writers really find their rhythm.
Nice. Okay.
And it's a show that is so sharply written and the jokes almost like hit you like 20 seconds after.
Yeah.
They're brilliant.
That's great.
Nice.
I love shows with no redeemable characters. It's also, most of my exposure to her is through Seinfeld. So it actually, you said the name and I was like, I know that. I had to look her up. I would love to see her play a witchy character. Like the more that I think about it, you said like a comedy sort of villainess. I think that's a great pick.
She, well, I guess that might be a spoiler, but she's in the new, what is it? Falcon. Soldier.
Got you. I need to catch up. I've seen all of Scarlet Witch was amazing. Or WandaVision was amazing. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It was so good. And I've seen the first episode of Falcon. I gotta catch up. I'm watching Dark right now, so I've been procrastinating.
Finish Dark before you
I know
Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's a good choice though.
I just want to give a shout out though to her. She won the Mark Twain Award. Okay. And their ceremony is on YouTube. The whole ceremony is really funny, but her acceptance speech is funny, but also really touching and inspiring. So I just recommend anyone to check that out.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm absolutely going to look into that. I'm writing it down. Okay, so me.
It's not your choice. Nope. It's my choice. So
You're right.
My next choice is an animated character. I'm gonna go with Coraline because Coraline is adventurous. Her dad calls her Twitchy Witchy Girl, and she likes the dowsing rod. She talks to black cats. I feel like she just has all of these aspects of being a young witch without being an actual witch. She's already got the attire for it, so I think Coraline would fit really perfectly. I have Maleficent, and then I have a bunch of young witches because I feel like it would be like I think of like an academy, like Sabrina's academy that she's at, like that
makes sense.
Thing is what I'm going for here. So
Maleficent is the headmistress.
Yeah,
exactly, and that's why they're called the Hex Girls. It makes sense as I'm coming up with it now.
I like it.
But yeah, going with Coraline. What do you think, Sean? About your choice?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Willow Smith. Yeah, and it's funny because she just came to me almost like immediately when I was thinking about it, and I don't really know why. It's just the vibes. Like I just feel like she would make such a great witch, and her music is so like, I feel like that's how she would do it. Like her magic would be through song and through music a lot, really dark. She did a song with SZA years ago. That's one of my favorite things that she did, called 9. And I don't know, it always just gave me like, it's hypnotizing. So I just see her fitting in, especially with like Sophie Cromwell's sort of mission statements. I don't know. I feel like also she has this great look to her where I'm like, dressing her in a witchy attire would be so much fun. Like, I feel like there would be a ton of different looks and stuff. So yeah.
Have
Willow
you
Smith.
heard her new like punk rock song? Like,
yeah,
it's song. Okay.
I like it a lot. I personally like her stuff that is more, again, listen to 9. Like if she just made a ton of stuff like that all the time, it would fit to but I also love that I'm pretty much down for whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
I just enjoy her music.
She's got a killer voice regardless.
Yeah. But yeah, Willow Smith.
That's a good one. These are all, I didn't know what to expect coming into this, and these are all great choices so far. So yeah, what's your fourth choice? Okay.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go with John Waters.
Nice.
Mostly just because I want him around.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nice.
I mean, Divine would be a great choice.
Yeah.
But I feel like, Divine is more, is more of a witch, where John Waters is like, he's like a warlock.
Yeah.
He's like a perverted Satanist.
Yes.
It was like pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And just exposing people to the wildest notions. And with his writing, like, I think he's just like overflowing with this just brilliant, hilarious perspective of the world. And he takes everything to its logical extreme.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he has made as many films as he has, in a way that is so uniquely, unapologetically his own, that he must have some kind of witchcraft power.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation.
Fair.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
To have been able to do that, to have the career that he does, is just, he's an incredible man. And I would follow him anywhere.
Right into the dark. I love it. Exactly. Yes. I support the hell out of that decision.
A great choice.
Yeah.
I'm really pissed that I didn't think of more like men, because I only was like, just like witch girls, but now damn it, I missed, like, Lil Nas X was the only guy that I had. All right, so my next one, I was super close not to choosing Angelica Houston, but to choosing Morticia, because I was like, that was a good one. But I think just because with the show coming out, I'm gonna go with Wednesday, and because it fits the whole vibe of everything. I feel like Wednesday wouldn't need a lot of training. She probably knows what to do with witchcraft, but just doesn't have the powers of witchcraft. But obviously would in this scenario. Just fits very perfectly. And also just, I'm extremely excited for the live action. I don't really know what to expect, but it's some of the most excited I've been for a Tim Burton project in a while. So I'm
definitely curious to see how it's going to be.
Crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
And I love Jenny Ortega, who they cast.
Yeah. It's a great choice. Cool. Yeah. It's definitely a really good choice.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm hoping that I love it. And I think that's a great pick too. Like, it makes sense. I feel like Wednesday, like, it's not that she would require like a ton of tutoring, like you're saying. I love watching. But Fester, like, watching Fester teach her stuff. Like, I always watch, like, he's like, look at these swords, and she's like, yeah, like, she just is so excited to learn about it. So yeah, I support it. Okay, me?
What do you think? Yeah,
I'm going with Sandra Bullock, not specifically from Practical Magic, but Sandra fucking Bullock, just in general. Miss Congeniality herself. Again, I don't know why. I just want that interaction.
What did you say in your TikTok? Practical Magic is Sandra Bullock at her most Bullockiest.
I didn't even say it. I didn't even say it in the TikTok. I think I just said it in our intro. But yeah, at her Bullockiest. Yeah. In the TikTok, I said you got to get your Sandra Bullock on.
That's true.
Yeah, because I don't know. I love Practical Magic. She's
good.
So she
was able to survive in space. and gravity.
On a bus, the speed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Plus, I honestly, my mom just watched. I've seen Miss Congeniality so many times, and Practical Magic because of my mom. And so, yeah, I think Sandra Bullock's just like written into my psyche a little bit. When I was like, dude, if I could put a coven together, Sandra Bullock.
That's fair. That's fair.
So
I wouldn't keep her out of it. That definitely makes sense. All right. Okay, go ahead with your last choice, and then if you want to come up with your name now or after we're done doing our picks, feel free. I want to give you some time to think it through. So
okay, so my final pick is Leta Ford, who is hair metal queen. If you don't know her, I highly recommend you check her out. In the 80s, when all the men were putting on lipstick and growing their hair out and drinking lots of beer and just playing over the top pop metal trash. She was out there just leading the band, writing her own music, shredding everyone's face off. She's just like this power horse, and just like incredible catchy music, all attitude. She's so sexual and comfortable in her sexuality, but in a way that just like commands attention and power. I saw her live a few years ago, and so I don't know how old she is. She's got to be in her 60s.
Older, yeah.
Now, or like late 50s, and she just was killing it. Like she was blowing the roof off, and she just has so much power and energy just emanating from her, and oozing with sex appeal, and looks like she could kill anyone with her bare hand.
Right. Plus she shreds. She shreds.
Exactly. It's so funny. Normally I wouldn't know who Leta Ford is. This is very like a small worldy thing. My uncle is a music photographer. He does it on the side kind of, but he's been able to work with large groups, Warrant and that sort of stuff. He does a lot of photography for Leta Ford, which is really like, if you go on Leta Ford, obviously hasn't been doing a lot because of COVID recently, but I know he works with her a lot. And so if you were on Leta Ford's Facebook, you'll see on some of her photos a tag of, shout out to my uncle, Gary, Shovelhead Studios is the name of his like photography, whatever. So yeah, it's really, you said Leta Ford, I'm like, damn, how do I know that name? And then I'm like, that's how I know. That's so crazy. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, totally understand where you're coming from because she is a badass.
Yeah, she was in the Runaways. Those cherry bomb.
Yeah,
bassists from that. So, and she was a teenager, so she wasn't doing this like her entire life.
That's amazing,
and she still kicks ass.
Yeah,
so yeah, shout out Leta Ford. Great pick. My last choice. I was telling Sean before we started this interview, I always like to throw a weird one in there. This one makes sense, so I'm not gonna, I'm unapologetic. But my fifth witch is gonna be Dora the Explorer. Here's why. She's an explorer. She's done so much crazy shit, and she's so young. She already talks to animals. She talks to inanimate objects. She takes direction really well, and she's a great communicator. Like she will pause and wait for you to respond.
Yeah, shut up.
Even if you don't respond, she'll continue and keep moving forward. So I think that she would be a great addition. Again, another young mind to mold. She's probably like 37 now because her show's been on for forever. But
oh my god.
But yeah, Dora the Explorer is gonna be my fifth choice.
Can you kind of what kind of magic is Dora using? Can you kind of like, what do you imagine?
Whatever the magic is, where you talk to animals and you have, you're able.
She works a lot with familiars and stuff.
Yeah, she's got a lot of familiars, but also just like she can. I don't know. I'm thinking like in normal like witchcraft, it wouldn't be like a lot of spells and that sort of stuff. But I'm thinking like Harry Potter-esque witchcraft. It's a lot of like working with objects. She's good at like commanding different objects and that sort of stuff. So
she's into transfiguration. Yeah, I couldn't. Wow, I couldn't say
like
that word.
Alchemy, that sort of stuff too. Yeah, just picture Dora the Explorer doing alchemy.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, she's such an academic person and like intellectually curious that I feel like this would be something that she could just whip out. Like she
Yep.
could be on an adventure and like be like, oh, reading this is actually a reference to this like incantation that I
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
So I feel like her witchcraft would come from a place of like just like a learned skill, like learning
Yeah.
language. It's just
Yeah.
like
She's very
I have
much
to
a
learn
Hermione.
because you never know if I'm gonna come across.
It's funny
Exactly.
because when you said it, it didn't make sense to me, and it has been growing on me over the past like couple minutes. So it's I support your answer.
Yes.
I support it.
Yes. Awesome. Hell yeah. All right,
Okay.
Sean, what's your fifth choice? And can it beat Dora the Explorer?
It's
The answer is no, but go ahead.
I'm gonna go with Kevin Abstract. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Brockhampton.
Musical artist, rapper,
He's in
But-
Brockhampton.
put together Brockhampton, right? Like
Yeah. He's one of them. Yeah.
But yeah, another like openly gay person in the hip hop scene. And just I think he's just a super cool dude. Like there's a lot of I think that I've been really interested in him since I saw the I love my boyfriend. I don't remember the name of that song, but I don't know, like that
Yeah, I
whole
know what you're talking about.
there's this whole like red lit scene at the end where he's by the pool and and I don't know, it just the power, like it just makes sense to me.
It's
And
called
especially
Empty.
like
The
that.
song's called Empty.
There you go, Empty.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to that in a minute, and I'm about to watch that video as soon as we're done with this interview. But the video is so great, and yeah, he was my last edition, and I don't know, he also just feels right with my other picks in my head. I also want to join this coven. I don't know if we put that together, but I'm a part of this coven too. So yeah, Kevin Abstract, 100%.
Yeah. Also, just a super creative person. Like extremely creative person.
Yes,
so.
That's what I mean. Like you can tell just an artist in general.
Yep.
And I feel like him and Willow specifically would work together in like music magic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I like it.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, we got 3 pretty good covens. Kay, do you have a name for your coven? Do you have an idea of what you want to call your coven?
Yeah, I'm gonna call it. This is kind of a cheap shot, but my Twitter handle is Video Coven.
Oh yeah.
I feel like, well, that kind of fits.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Listen, that's a good one. We got Video Coven, we got Sean's The
Hex
Hollowed,
Girls.
and then you got my Hex Girls.
Hollowed.
So
Hollowed,
Yeah.
right?
The Hollowed, yeah. Hell yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
those are great covens. I don't think we could have picked better choices. Okay, thank
Imagine
you
if
again.
we all kind of like cross paths.
That's what I'm saying.
What's that story?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like it.
Someone's got to
That
come up
would
with a story for it.
I would read the graphic novel is what I'm saying. I would
Yes.
read that. Yeah.
I would read the fan fiction, whatever it's got to
Yeah.
be. It's fine. But yeah, Kay, thank you again for being on. We've had an awesome conversation. It's been great to learn about the Salem Horror Fest. Like I said before, I will get up there in October. We'll get Sean there too. He's in the Midwest.
I'm down. Let's go.
We'll figure it out. We'll chat more. And yeah, thank you again for being on the pod.
Thank you. I had a really fun time. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Again, if you're listening, like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Mostly Horror Movie Night. That's it. Talk to you guys next week.
Goodbye.